Um, I'm hoping that my live is going to actually work right now. I'm having people hating on me apparently because my lives are tripping on my first channel. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the Bible a little bit more in regards to the government shutdown. I want to go over some of the things that I've been researching as of late to try to help us with where we need to be as far as how we need to be thinking moving forward. And I had been online telling it that it has not been very good as far as the people that are online and who are in this day over the YouTube um, for Black people in the times that we are in right now. It is apparent that we're being rocked back to sleep, even though this is the most imperative time for us not to be rocked back to sleep. And how you doing, Wiseman? Um, so it's the effort, in my opinion, with the climate of what we need to be acting on and talking about is not happening for YouTube. And today of all days, my other channel is miraculously not working for me to make a video. And I really believe it's because I've been like targeted as far as telling too much truth, which is kind of revealing the scope and how to look at what's going on YouTube and what's going on in America with Black people, how this government shutdown will ultimately test the survival of the fittest of Black people. And it's really a trying time for us to not really hone in on the news, what Trump is talking like. Today, he's mentioning how he wanted to broker a better deal to try to get off the shutdown. And it's apparent that Nancy Pelosi and her crew, which is regulated by the powers that be, influenced, have made it known that they're not willing to budge on doing anything that's easy, which is really ridiculous. So it's a lot of this back and forth that's going on in the government. And it's kind of feeling like a tug of war that's going on. To me, in my opinion, from what I've been researching before I get to my research stuff, is that we have been cued in on the fact that Trump is basically being pimped by Putin. The election showed it. His interaction with Russia shows it. His inability to criticize Russia shows it. Um, and it feels as if he's being told, to go against this and that and the other. And it also feels like the government or the Nancy Pelosi Democratic side of things is attempting to stall and make it harder to resolve the situation, because I think it's their attempt or view to, I don't know if it's going to happen or not, or I mean, already we're hearing that the HUD program might be going away. We're hearing the food stamps are going away, that Trump is actually going to try to get people food in a box type of thing. And if he does that and this government shutdown still continues, it will be right now, I think it's 5 weeks in. So a lot of people are hurting right now. I mean, we're being stretched all over the place. And, it's really should be a time of urgency to talk to us amongst ourselves about being prepared and getting your house in order, prepping, getting weapons, getting your family to do this and that and the third. And this is not happening at all on the Black YouTube. We're being rocked back to sleep by the powers that be. And it has been my opinion that the elitists like Soros and Bill Gates and all these others have mobilized to really stretch us thin through the information part of what is told and what is revealed. As I said, the social media is a broadcasting forum, and what that is doing is basically giving a lot of people misinformation that they don't need at this time. And it's been very frustrating to me because I know as a survival of life how I need to be acting right now. And it's not mirroring how the world is acting right now. And to me, it just seems convenient that the media, that the social media, that all these types of venues are not having a collection of good messaging as far as what we should be doing in the now, right now. I mean, we're talking about relationships, I'm hearing. We're talking about gender wars. We're talking about, glorifying men, the upcoming people on YouTube now. I do feel as if this social media thing is going to be tightened pretty soon. It just feels like it's going to happen. I know that George Soros has mentioned that Facebook and Google has it's time, like it's running out of time. And I think that he has his hand in, making it harder for people to have the liberty of speaking like I'm speaking right now. Pretty soon is going to be more rules and regulations as to what can be said. And it feels as if a lot of Black people already know what direction it's going, and they're already directing the young YouTubers and the people that have been around but not successful to go in the direction in which they feel that their handlers are telling them to go. Actually, they're going that way. And so you have the upcoming people like me, or people that are thinking about what's truthful to be talking about. We're being pushed to the side behind the fact that we're kind of a wild card and not sticking to the script of what everybody's talking like. And so that is very frustrating to me, because I feel like all voices with sensibility and reasonableness should be heard. It should not be capitalized or utilized only by a few, but that's what's happening, especially in Black YouTube. So we see the pitting of different people on YouTube has been going on for so long, the beefing. Why is that? Because Black people love entertainment. Black people are easily distracted and pulled away like a child. And it's unfortunate that that's the reality. And so we have a lot of people that's using a lot of trickery on us right now to keep us dumbed down and to stay as quiet as possible. And I'm just letting it be known that I feel that people that are like me are going to get blocked. I don't know why my other channel, I think I know that they are messing with me now for the fact that I have called out a lot of these channels that are off message, proper message. They're not talking as if they should. And me pointing it out through the biblical sense of it and talking about how the fruit of what they're doing is not materializing positivity and motivation and critical thinking to actually motivate us to collectively do anything. We're always talking and arguing and performing and being mocked at the same time and being dragged throughout the world with the media and with everything else that's going on around us. And yet we can't pivot. See, Gore is to show you who the real agents are. Gore? Okay. Yeah. They're all over the place. Wiseman, they're everywhere. I mean, you'd be surprised. I think a lot of people are employed. I'm getting a feeling that, because I ain't been online long enough to know how much money is being made online. And I don't really want to know what I'm witnessing behind what's going on, because it feels as if a lot of this is employable, like telemarketing, or just stirring the pot of controversies and chaos. That's all we're doing. Because, like I said, with us 31 days in a government shutdown, and we are not talking about prepping, we're not talking about getting batteries, we're not talking about, just do what you need to do, and this is what we need to be like, and all that. I mean, we're talking about things that only an individual can resolve. That's what we're talking about. And that's what's so frustrating. And so, I pointed out the fact that we are negligent in how we are talking. We are negligent in how we're carrying on. And I'm afraid that, I'm not received behind not worshiping the grand old male status of thinking. Because to me, this is not the time to be propping up anyone. To me, this is the time for us to collectively drop the bullshit and talk the real talk of what needs to be talked on. And Trump, to me, I don't think he won't mind if there's a collapse or anything major that would cause him to put martial law or call some type of national emergency to really have his grip of power in his presidency. He is the type. He's a narcissist. So I have in the back of my mind at this point with how he's maneuvering, and it feels like a tug of war to me that's going on between Soros, Trump, and behind Trump is Russia. And behind Soros is our Democratic Liberal Party and the investors and the Democratic agencies and whatever that support them. So we have this tug of war going, and both sides really don't care what happens because they're all okay. But they're performing as if they care. But all the while, we have 5 weeks in where people are not being paid. All the while, we are 5 weeks in where people will not know if food stamps are going to be the way they were. He's already signaling that he is not pretty much going to continue the system as it was. So it's a scary time, and the attitude and the morality of the Black people is really astonishing. Is to be honest with you, is shameful. To be honest with you, there should be a lot more people coming out of the crevices, speaking up to what the hell we need to be talking about. I mean, everything now is gossip city. And even though I partake or have tried partaking to see what the fuck is going on with it, I mean, it's just the redundancy of it and the timing of it is just appalling that this is where we are. It is. It's really appalling that this is where we are. 31 days in shutdown, we're having Tasha K and Mona Simone war. We're having still Hassan and everybody. We're having just all these controversies of irrelevance is what I'm saying. And the real leaders that should be speaking up on our behalf are not. We had Farrakhan go to Iran. Why are you going to Iran when you have issues here in Chicago? Why are you not saying anything about the shutdown or anything to that topic? Is as if everything is null and void. It's like everybody knows, in my opinion, that this has been set in stone to happen, and we're the only ones that's unaware that this is about to go down. And instead of us speaking up about shut the fuck up on the dumb shit already and talk about what it is we need to do and respond to, we don't have time to be worrying about people whining over who's not listening to them, who's not submitting, who is not agreeing to their race, who is not agreeable to this, who doesn't believe that they're not African. I mean, all these different things that have nothing or any merit or any stance to help us maneuver, pivot to actually do something worth doing. We're just caught in the matrix of so-called information, of redundancy. And people like me, unfortunately, who can't stand to see outrageous ridiculousness, can't be quiet. And the only way that they can quiet me is to shut me down. And I'm pretty sure that they're not going to keep allowing me to speak freely behind the fact that they're saying they'll go to this level of thinking, oh, she's disrupting our chat room. No, I'm going contrary to being a yes, sir, or a yes, ma'am. I'm trying to put out there that what you're talking about is really silly. And you guys don't like the fact that I'm not playing nice in your fucking classroom. But to me, this is not the time to be playing nice in anyone's classroom when you have the building burning down. And that's what I'm looking at this thing as. And it's unfortunate that we have too many yes ma'ams and yes sirs in the community. It's really everybody's it just feels like they're scrambling around to reposition themselves right now on YouTube. And the controversy with Phil really exposed the gaming and the hustling and the just the hustling tendencies that everybody is partaking in on YouTube, alongside of Umar Johnson, alongside of Boyce Watkins, alongside of, on and on and on, Zalazar Ali and all these others. And so when he came out to be exposed for being a liar, someone that has made a living off of pretending to be our down brother, down for the cause, he never, out of all the years, have pivoted to actually help us collectively coalesce together as, in my opinion, unity. And he could have done more, but why is he have not done that? It's behind him being orchestrated behind the scenes with his media outlet, and so many others are also influenced to tell us what to think on and how much hope to have. And that's why it's very frustrating to me to know the state of mind that we are in, because we only want to wait for somebody else to tell us that we're doing okay and what we need to do. And, like the Bible says, there's a time to work, there's a time for rest, there's a time for all these things. And this right now is not the time to be having relationship debates or to be talking about edifying like YouTubers when we're in the middle of a fucking shutdown. I mean, it's the most preposterous thing I've ever seen. But, since the bulk of most of the people that are online have been on there for years, they're kind of like numb to what I feel like. But it's frustrating for me to know what I know. So before I go, there's some websites that I wanted people to look into that will express more about what's going on globally. Because, like I say, this is not being talked about. So I took it upon myself to kind of research this morning on what's going on and what I can say that's not really being told to the degree that it should have. But I researched online, and Soros was actually on 60 Minutes years ago. I don't know how many years ago. It's an old taping of him. So maybe 10 years ago. I don't know. But when he was on the 60 Minutes, he had mentioned that he said that people follow him because he's been successful and he gets blamed for everything. I'm just paraphrasing some of the things that he was saying. And he was saying that he is there to simply make money when there's collapses that result from him doing what he does best, which is pit different currencies against one another. And what he does is like he puts and bets a lot of money to have certain elements to uprise or have happen, whether it be war, whether it be protest, whether it be buying out the currencies that he does, that he has bought out. I've heard that he bought out or collapsed Thailand. He collapsed Malaysia. He's collapsed Japan, and he also had a hand in messing with Russia's ruples, which caused it to collapse for a while. So he's been known to have his hand in collapsing markets and, currencies. So, he's basically the guy behind the scenes. He also said something to the mention of, he was accused of being, someone had made mention that he was a carnivore of the First Order, and that he risked $2 billion in Russia to cause the issue with the currency in Russia years ago. And he said that he never looked at any consequences with what he does with his money, whatever he's doing to cause collapses and changes. He says he doesn't even pay it no mind as far as what consequences may result, that he is exempt in his mind from being blamed for it. And he's mentioned that he is amoral, which I never really paid attention to that word before until today. But amoral is basically activities that doesn't make you feel guilty for anything, whether it is moral or immoral, that you don't have any connection with that type of thing. So this man, who at the age of 14, he had been forcefully lied to, his father had lied for him to say that he was a Christian's God's son to spare him from the Holocaust. And I guess his father dropped him off to this person that concealed his true identity at the age of 14. And at this time, George had to go around with this godfather, whoever that was, to collect property from the Jews that were basically going to be lined up to go to the so-called or Holocaust back in that time. So he was a spectator to what happened to his people at the age of 14. He went around with the so-called godfather to basically enact the pulling away of property from the Jewish people that were about to enter in the Holocaust. So this is the George Soros of 14, who now is one of the key players in our global economy, who's one of the key players in Africa, Switzerland, America, Britain, all over. He has 126, I believe, countries where he has his hands into in regards to how he's orchestrating different calamities and occurrences to also occur. I do know also that George Soros is very close with Hillary Clinton. He had spent a lot of money and donations towards her cause to try to be president. And even though she failed, he still is in good ties and standing with them. He also said on 60 Minutes that he does not believe in God at all. And he thinks that man created God and not the other way around. He says that at the age of 14, the reporter, the guy giving the interview, had asked him, well, did you feel any kind of way when you seen all your people being lined up to go to the Holocaust as you stood by as a spectator? Did you feel guilt behind it? And he said no. He did not find it hard at all to handle at the age of 14 his own kinfolk going towards their doom, and him seeing them unravel before everything hit the fan. He had not a care. And this is the man right now who has a lot of money and funding into the Black community through different organizations that target women's groups, gay rights groups, Black movement groups, protest, anything and everything that has anything to do with Black people, whether it is here in America or abroad. George Soros has always been the man behind Black people and a lot of his ventures. So much so in South Africa, where Ghana, we know, is supposedly the land that is trying to get Black people to go back there. And we do know, well, anyone that knows of prophecy or understanding that there are always people that are always trying to tell lies. Not everybody that speaks up about something does not mean that it's necessarily the truth in which they speak. So we do know, if you want to look it up, I hope you guys will do so, that George Soros has been a fixture in South African politics and anything related to health and all other things there for many, 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 many years. He's had dealings with, as I've said on my other channel, with Dr. Mambe, who is in, I guess, Kenya or somewhere in Africa, who's been prophesying her words to say that, you know, African and Black American are kinfolks and that we are welcome to go back to Africa. Now, this is one of the lies that I had mentioned as a distraction to who we are as Black people in America. Most of us do realize that we may not even be the same at all, and that the story that's been told about our history is very questionable, and that everything that we heard are not actually truths. All I do know is that we are here in America. We've been born and raised here, and our parents' parents, and thus, unless you weren't, but the bulk of who I'm talking to were. And, you know, with all the things that are happening now up to this point, there should have been a pivot, in my opinion, to our conversations of what we should be talking like. And it's not happening behind the fact that the powers that be, who are over YouTube and over the vast majority of media, newspaper and whatnot, don't care to have us revved up. They don't care to have us panicked or reactive. They still would like to keep us in the belief system that things will get better, and then when they're not, oh well. Those people that are off from work 5 weeks now, I'm pretty sure that they're not having this idea that the money that they're not getting is not a big deal. But, you know, our attitude and motivations to what is happening to those people is not really translating to us to the degree that it should. And like I said before, it's behind the powers that be that don't want to rock us too hard to make us get startled and do something. They want to keep us pitted and battling and battled, and also trained as we have been to just debate, just to argue, and just wait and hope for the best. And that is not the time for us to do what we need to be doing. So this is my hope, that people will look up George Soros. Let me go to the Bible now and understand that the tug of war, in my opinion, is between George Soros, Trump, and Putin behind Trump, maneuvering him. Because if you look up the dealings that Trump had back in 1987, I want to say, he's been in Russia all that time with property there. He has dealings with a whole slew of people in Russia. So to think after all these years, from 1987 up to now, that he doesn't have any type of influence by them is crazy, for sure. Yeah, people are right now, that's exactly what they're doing, Wiseman. They're profiting off of our collapse. What they have decided, in my opinion, is to get all they can get until the collapse happens, and then they can relocate with all the monies that they have, and in their mind start a different life, separate from the rest of us. They have allowed themselves to go ahead and accept that reality because they are in the know of what's going on, and they don't want us to know what's really going on. So they have to play the game of, oh, I really didn't know that was happening. Oh, Trump is the one that's doing this shit, and he's fucked up. No, it's him alongside of George Soros, alongside of Russia, and all that they've been doing for all these years now has hit the fan. Trump is using the excuse of the so-called wall. I looked up online right now, the wall, they've raised over $16 million towards this so-called wall. And if Trump was a decent person, he would accept all these donations he has been given and start the wall and keep open this so-called GoFundMe. We do know the GoFundMe is available and accessible to anyone at any time. So for him to act like money can't continually flow through the GoFundMe to keep the operations flowing for that wall is laughable, because we do know that it could still stay up. So the hard line that he's using, that he has to have all the money before he reopens the government. But today, as I stated, he's saying that he's reconsidering to give life back to the idea of the government to be reopened again. But good old Nancy Pelosi and her crew and the George Soros crew have let it be known that they're not interested, because they want to pretty much run it down to the wire. And what does that mean, to run down to the wire? I don't know what that's going to mean, but I do know that if it does run down to the wire, it's going to affect who the most? Black people. That's the one that's going to be affected ultimately the worst. And it's unfortunate that we have people that are representing the intelligence sector of YouTube. They want to talk and talk and talk and show videos about stuff that, you can say, but hours upon hours of talking about senseless arguing is, like I said, a conditioning mechanism that's being used by broadcasting techniques to browbeat us into being dumbed down, to not have the motivation to try or to speak out towards having a feeling of what could be next. No one is going to Washington and protesting about the government shutdown and whatnot. Yesterday was the Women's March, I believe, which we do now know has been funded by George Soros. And like I said before, he has everything to do with chaos and keeping up different issues to be debated and argued over, and to make it very hard for us to just work on Black issue. Because when he elevates gay issues or immigration issues, or what's the other one? The wall issue and others issues I'm not thinking on right now. The wall, pretty sure the Wall Street could be an issue at any time because of all the money he could throw into the system. But these issues are very detrimental to us having any safety net. And we're so close to being really put in a state of panic And for us not to be talking with the sense of urgency that we need to be having is just, like I said, it's been designed by this YouTube to keep Black people from being unresponsive. And they've done a good job, I can see now, from having the aspect of entertainment and clout chasing and battling and just people being able to clown at will to basically get a whole lot more of attention than focusing on food, your health, your kids, survival, emergency access of whatever. These things are eluding us behind the fact that we have these people in place who are more influential on YouTube as the go-to people that are only interested in keeping up the battling back and forth. So anyways, let me get to the Bible and it will show more what I mean, because I've been saying this, and let me see here where we at. Okay, I'll just read the whole thing. So this is Ezekiel 21, verse 1 of Ezekiel. And it says, "The word of the Lord came unto me, saying, A son of man, set thy face towards Jerusalem, and drop thy word towards the holy places, and prophesy against the land of Israel. And say to the land of Israel, Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I am against thee, and will draw forth my sword out of his sheath, and will cut off from thee the righteous and the wicked." A separation of righteous versus wicked has happened. This has been prophecy that would happen. And I believe that this is the time in which is being referred. We just had a red moon, a blood moon rather, yesterday. And there's a shift going on and a separation going on. And it's going to be more and more highlighted who was on the righteous side and who was on the wicked side. It's going to be on their conversation and their actions. Is going to be on the intensity of passion behind the effect that it brings. If we're just talked to like children reading a lullaby or singing a lullaby, that's not a motivating thing for us to be in. But that's what has been the case with YouTube and a lot of things that we have been partaking in this beast system. I call it the beast system, behind the fact that it is not moral to do the bulk of what is going on in society. And when you are mixed up about your morality and caught up in trends and cultural whatever tendencies that's going on in the society that you live in, you are, I guess, distracted to partake in what's going on, and you get caught up into that world, or Babylon, or what you want to call it, Sodom and Gomorrah, or the mindset of that day is going on right now. It's going on right now. We have and seen so many sexual perversions going on with pedophilia, with finding out people being raped all over the place. I just seen online a Jasmine, I forgot her last name, who was in a club and was raped on the dance floor. I guess the guy had his private part inside of her on the dance floor and took her somewhere else and raped her. But it happened live on YouTube or Facebook. And we're having so many different cases of perversion. Sexual perversion is just outrageous. It's all the stuff that's hitting the fan with R. Kelly and everybody else under the sun. Of course, we had what's his name, Weinstein, and so many others that have been involved in this, and they're coming out of the woodworks as being shown as the wickedness like is everywhere. But like I said, you see a separation, and what's going to happen in this prophecy is a cutoff. That before it was mixed together, good and evil. What's about to happen, well, how things are going is going to be a definitive separation of righteous and wickedness behind the fact of what is going to partake or have happened, I guess, after this collapse. We don't know to what end he's going to go and make things hard for the bulk of Americans. And it's not just going to affect black people, it's going to affect white people as well. But that's going to pit the race war, having us fight more for food and whatever. I mean, we don't need to have that type of thing going on, but yet that is a possibility with this government shutdown. It's a possibility that people that have been working all this time that now feel like they're not going to work no more, who are being affected behind the shutdown and not getting a paycheck. And what if that happens? What kind of consequences going to happen behind not having, like, say, people to check out the airport properly, people to handle produce, I don't know, whatever level the federal government reaches for this effect that we are facing. If it continues forward, the people that have been holding it down might not feel the need to continue to hold it down. And it's a big risk for Trump and this government to chance us having a race war or food shortage of any kind to that magnitude. But it doesn't feel like anyone is really hurried to fix it. Everybody's just playing, what do you call it? Pool table, pong bong. What do you call it? Hitting the pong bong over and over and over again, back and forth. So, okay, let me go on. Number 4. Seeing then that I will cut off from the righteous, and the wicked, therefore shall my sword go forth out of his sheath against all flesh from the south to the north. And when I was looking up the south, it had me thinking about where, like I said, Africa, or associations with George Soros. And then you think of the north, it kind of makes me think of Trump. And number 5 says that all flesh may know that I, the Lord, have drawn forth my sword out of his sheath. It shall not return anymore. So when I see that, it's like, so you're going to go to battle and this is it type of thing? I mean, that's kind of like what it feels like. But number 6 says, sigh, therefore, thou son of man, with the breaking of thy loins, and with bitterness sigh before their eyes. And it shall be when they say unto thee, wherefore sightest thou, that thou shalt answer, for the tidings, because it cometh, and every heart shall melt, and all hands shall be feeble, and every spirit shall be faint, and all knees shall be weak as water. Behold, it cometh, and shall be brought to pass, saith the Lord. So it sounds like a crazy time is coming, and I feel like this is it, to where we're all going to be challenged beyond the brink of being challenged. And what it's going to look like, it really is going to depend on this collapse and where the chips fall after what has transpired. So in my mind, it is a telling time of warning a telling time of things that's going to happen and soon approaching. And I think that Trump is the person that is leading the charge for this. And as I said before, I believe that Soros is tug-of-warring against Trump. Trump has mentioned George Soros many a times in his road to the presidency. He always brought up the fact that George Soros was too active in the government and too active in the global economy and whatnot. He's always made mention of the evil presence and influence of George Soros. So it makes sense to me that this tug of war is going on between them two with the economy and with this government shutdown, and the fact that Trump is testing the waters. He wants to exert his power. He doesn't want to be kept checked by our government, which is being led, in my opinion, by Soros, which has the influence of the Democratic Party. And he has been funding everything that has anything to do with liberal things that take effect, marching and whatnot. And he's been paying a lot of donations for the people that are in power in the government, for him to have them in his pocket, in his back pocket. So I feel that if George Soros does not let up, which he does not care, as I've said before in this video, he doesn't have any guilt for anything. He doesn't consider any consequence, so he doesn't care. And then you have on the other side of that Trump, who is eager to have more power. And he has always shown how he is not conscious of anyone less than a millionaire or a billionaire. He has sold the idea that he is the white American president, but truth be told, the bulk of white Americans being played as well, because they don't make a lot of money and they can't afford to have the shutdown occur. So Trump is in a pickle behind the fact that he's going to upset his base. But if the collapse happens to the point where he has to exert more power, he won't care. And that's the fact, that's the issue that white America needs to catch up to realize. He is only out for himself and his agenda. He doesn't really care about you guys collectively being okay. He's saying he cares, but he doesn't need you guys no more. You guys have played your part and given him all the power and confidence to be where he is right now. And so now he feels like he can pivot to get and acquire more power or more respect. So this wall ploy is his attempt, alongside of having Russia in his ear, to have him test the waters like he's doing, in my opinion, against Soros and the liberal government that, like I say, is highly influenced by George Soros. It was interesting when I looked up New York City, where Trump and also George Soros now resides. They both live in New York right now, or they both have residencies in New York. And the variant flag of the state of New York, which the seal was in 1778, and I guess the flag was made official in 1901, but it had the supporters of liberty and justice as statues covered up in the flag, with the hill behind it and the sun and whatnot. And it had on the bottom of it the word elixir, or Excelsior, Excelsior. And that word has been used in names for hotels, newspapers, and other products to indicate superior quality. and it also means ever upward. And when you think of ever upward, you think of building something up, which Trump is doing right now with the idea of the wall. And also that's what he does in his profession, build up. Then you also have on the other side of that George Soros, who builds up his influence with his money capital, his hedge funds, his presence of suggestion on what he says on news outlets, what he does and says about the market, and what he does and says in relation to what happens in America. He has high influence factors that he has in play. Also, I wanted to make mention that recently, December 19th, it was found in Malawi, Malawi. I might not be pronouncing it right, but they had a river that was bloodied red. And also, what was bloody red, another river in Indonesia, which happened December 27th, 2 days after what Trump did, which was the collapse on December 25th, which all we know was Christmas. So we've had warning signs, is what I'm trying to say. With the river, there was also locusts recently in Mecca. There's been a lot of end time things that have been mentioned in the Bible and Revelation also, which I can't really read very well, at least not yet. But these are the things that it mentioned in the Bible as far as end time prophecies, and these things are coming up all over the place to also give credence to the Bible in this Ezekiel passage and Revelations passages that pinpoints the end times and what would happen, what would be going on, fear mongering would be going on, wars and this and that will be going on. And I have mentioned that the media is definitely an upward movement, creation portal, that anyone can be creators in their own heart and mind as to what their truth is. As I said before, the Open Society is being run by George Soros, and he has a lot of, I don't know if I mentioned, but I think he spent, I can't, just billions of dollars towards a lot of causes for what he wants to have accomplished. But this medium that we call the social media, it allots us to do what we want, or do as you will, as Alice, we call it, Crowley would say, which is demonic or satanic. Anyone could be famous online. You could be a transgender now online and become famous. You could be a part of World Star and become famous. You could be a rapper. You could be an Instagram model. You can be a debater. You can be a fake religious guru. Speaking of which, Nature Boy, the latest of him and his fuckery, he just had, well, Ilana just had her baby, a girl, with Nature Boy in Mexico. And through all his talking about knowing how women's body work and that she was going to have the baby out in nature, they weren't going to have no doctor, this and that and the other, he knows best, all this crap talk. He was forced to go to the hospital, and he left without paying the complete bill. And supposedly Mexico people, well, the hospital personnel people, want their money. So they've been on the prowl looking him up online to locate him. And so right now, what I have been saying, that anyone could be anyone, anything. Nature Boy pretended to be Messiah. He's, even after all the controversies that he's been going on with his cult members leaving, and they're sharing one another, possibly sharing diseases, he's still online begging for donations, leaving the hospital in Mexico. Is just like the most ridiculous thing. The point is, like, the realities that we see online is being propped up to be allowed. Nature Boy couldn't afford to be in Mexico with all his cult members the way he's doing it without the support of those people behind him. And those people behind him have a lot of money. Where do they get this money? From all over the world. And interest groups all over the world that want to prop up for our own messed up brainwashing technique to be distracted, and also to believe that possibly that's the direction that we could take. We could aspire to be another nature boy or nature girl. We could be aspire to be entertained by what he does and get distracted from what we need to be like. That's just an example of what I mean. But it's such a grievous thing to witness, you almost can't turn it off. It's very hard to walk away when you see so much unbelievable fuckery. You're pulled into that. And that's kind of like what this YouTube has been promoting the most to me. And like I said, I've never been online before breaking my foot. I had no intention to be sitting up online. I'm the type of person that's more active, that likes to be moving around a lot, walking my dog or riding my bike, being active. And I was stranded, and I started looking online and fell into the understanding that we are messed up in the brain. We are arguing among ourselves over things that didn't make sense. And when I first started seeing it, I didn't realize the connection of George Soros, social media influence, how other groups have a lot into us being foolish. They have paid a lot for us to stay the way we are. And so I come along, and I first was entertained behind what I was witnessing, and then I got mad behind what I was witnessing, because I was like, really, this is how my folks think? This is how women perform? This is how we talk amongst ourselves online, where the world can see us and hear us? Whoa, wowzers. It floored me. So it kind of triggered something I never had in me, which was kind of a righteous anger, I would say. I started feeling really upset that not enough representation was going on around the YouTube that was representing righteousness. We have a lot of fake righteousness. We have a lot of people claiming that they are of God and that they're of a cult, this and that and the other. And then we hear about pedophilia, we hear about rapes, we hear about all this other stuff. So it's not to the degree in which they are claiming. And yeah, you can find some things from time to time that's really good online, but you really, really, really got to look for it. You really got to look. The vast majority of what is readily available is just fuckery on the black sector. So when you go to the white sector, you get more information than what you would actually get in the black sector. And that is the ultimate truth, in my opinion. But we've been led to believe that Phil, the Advice Show, is our information. And as I said before, he's being propped up, in my opinion, at the powers that be with this lie that we are African and that one day we need to look to the promised land to resolve our issues here in America, to go back to the land in which we were stolen from way back yonder. And to me, that is the most ridiculous argument to have when the house is burning down. And it's just a hopeless ploy to have us think in terms of anything else other than our survival. That's why I have spoken out against Phil, the Advice Show, and Dr. Mombi, because that's what I really, really, really feel in my spirit to the degree that I've been online speaking. I didn't know anything about Pan-Africanism until I came online. I had no understanding of this new age of thinking, of how everybody is now African and we all want to go back to the motherland. I had no clue. So when I first started hearing it over and over again in the debates on Sinetta and all these like Garfield and all these other African type of rocking the RBG flag and all that, you just constantly hear it every single day. And if it wasn't that argument, it was the religious argument. Who's superior in their religion? And then if it wasn't that argument, who's superior as a man in their information? Now, a pimp can be informed to tell us something. Nowadays, we can have anyone speak to us as if they're teachers and masters. Is truly a time to behold. So let me get back to this. So, as I had said before, what I also discovered today, the European Union, which is a union that encompasses a lot of, I think like 20, let me see, I don't want to give misinformation, but a number of countries that are part of the European Union have some other type of laws that they're implementing to affect different countries that have assigned themselves to the European Union. And you would find it hard to believe, at least I did, that South Africa is actually partaking and dealing with the European Union. But I'm not surprised now. I would have been surprised. But the fact of the matter is, South Africa has been inundated for a very long time, since Mandela's been around 1994, to have them put in place the black person they wanted in power in South Africa. And Mandela actually was that first person that I know of. There might have been another one, I don't know, but I know of him as being that one that was put into power by the handlers of that time. And like I have said, George Soros is behind a lot of the handling of South Africa affairs back as early as when Mandela was in power, or even before that. And on 60 Minutes, when I had talked about George Soros, he also had kind of like bragged about the fact that he had Mandela's ear to ask. Mandela had asked him how to stop the spectator of the outside influences coming in and trying to steal from them, pretty much. So he was trying to get advice from George Soros. So he says, George Soros, from Mandela, about what to do about people like him. Well, he didn't do a very good job, did he? He didn't keep any of them out. Him talking about it, he actually didn't do it. But it just shows you that George Soros has had his hand in a very long time, for a lot of decades back in South Africa. So for people to just talk about us going to Africa, the motherland, it is so disingenuous. I see the lie all over the place, because if they were real serious about unifying Africa, wouldn't they unify the Africans within their own country? They should be doing that to get those people that have invaded their country, the Chinese and all the others, out. But they can't, because they've been sold out a long time ago. But we are the last to know, and we're not going to be told outright that's what it is. We're going to be told whatever they decide to tell us. And they're still going to be trying to sell us on this notion of we are Africans and we need to go back to Africa. And it is an absolute lie. And I really feel that I don't know what's going to trigger the transition of going back to Africa is going to escalate. But I foresee, in my opinion, that it's already been put in place for it to happen. Already, Phil has, of October 2019, put in play for us or anyone to go to Africa, unless it's already been full. The dock has been full to go back to Africa, but he's already have it in play for you to pay, to have it scheduled for you to go to Africa, this first trip taken to Africa. Now, if something major happens here, I'm pretty sure, I'm guessing, but I'm pretty sure in my spirit that that conversation is going to be more and more talked on, and that miraculously it's probably going to be some way in which passports are made available. Already Phil has mentioned how getting a passport should be a goal of us to do. He's already put that seed in our consciousness to even think on and ponder. So if this government collapsed to the point where there ain't no get back, I'm pretty sure that's going to be an opportune time for him to escalate this conversation about us going to Africa. And again, that is a lie. That is the lie that the Black Americans are being sold. Instead of us thinking on what we can do for ourselves, we're thinking about anything else but helping ourselves out. And that's the whole point of what I'm trying to say. So getting back to the Bible, where was I? Number 7 of Ezekiel 21, chapter 21. I'm going to continue on to chapter, let me just go back to 6. Sigh therefore, thou son of man, with the breaking of thy loins, and with bitterness sigh before their eyes. And it shall be when they say unto thee, wherefore signest thou? That thou shalt answer for the tidings, because it cometh, and every heart shall melt, and all hands shall be feeble, every spirit shall faint, all knees shall be weak as water. Behold, it cometh, and shall be brought to pass, saith the Lord God. Again, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, prophesy, and say, Thus saith the Lord, say a sword is sharpened, and also furbished. It is sharpened to make a sore slaughter. It is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make merit? It's contempteth the rod of my son as every tree. And he hath given it to be I don't know why I keep getting tongue-tied on this word. Furbished, that's the word, furbished, that it may be handled. This sword is sharpened and is furbished to give it into the hand of the slayer. Cry and howl, son of man, for it shall be upon my people, it shall be upon all the prince of Israel. Terrors by reason of the sword shall be upon my people. Smite therefore upon thy thigh, because it is a trial. And what if the sword cometh, even the rod? It shall be no more, saith the Lord God. Thou therefore, son of man, prophesy and smite thy hands together, and let the sword be doubled the third time, the sword of the slain. It is the sword of the great men that are slain, which entered into their privy chambers. I have set the point of the sword against all their gates, that their heart may faint and their ruins be multiplied. It is made bright. It is wrapped up for the slaughter. Go thee one way or other, either on the right hand or on the left. Whithersoever they face is set. Now this really got my attention, because when I think of the right, I'm thinking of Trump. And when I think of the left, I'm thinking of Soros. Pick your side. That's what comes to mind to me. For some reason, that's what comes to mind. Number 17, I will also smite my hands together, and I will cause my fury to rest. I, the Lord, have said it. And the word of the Lord came unto me again, saying also, Thou son of man, appoint thee 2 ways, that the sword of the king of Babylon may come. Both twain shall come forth out of one land, and choose thou a place, choose it at the head of the way to the city. When I think of the word city and the fact that George Soros and Trump has residencies in New York, collectively in New York. And there's a battling going on for which one is going to be the more power at this time. I feel these two are trying to battle to see who will reign the most supreme. George Soros tried to get Hillary in office because he was going to be over her, totally, singularly behind her ear. And when Trump won, in my opinion, the presidency, it messed up his plan to be pretty much the ruler of America with having Hillary as the president. So his bet to win through Hillary was debunked by Trump. So that's why Trump and Soros will always be adversaries against one another, because already Trump has won over by winning the presidency to begin with. And so now we're here with this government shutdown, and you have Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic Party, the liberal think tank, which is George Soros and the like, are orchestrating their tug of war against Trump and getting funds for this wall that, in my opinion, he should have, because it's not worth breaking the whole entire economy. It's not worth tearing down the HUD, the food stamps system, and any other consequence that I may not even know about right now. It is not worth the risk. And the point of the matter is, we are here behind the fact that both of them have nothing to lose. George Soros will move forward, his family, his open society will move forward, his influences will move forward, and Trump will always have his foundations and also his presidency, and he could move forward. And like I said before, the true people in which he only cares about is the ones that he is set to care about. He doesn't care about the collective of white people, black people, anybody at all. That's why he can talk about immigration and locking up people in FEMA camps or whatever. He could get people to be kicked off of food stamps on, right before or on Christmas or right after Christmas, shut down the government on Christmas Day. He's been alerting all of us for a long time that he is not playing. And George Soros don't have nothing to lose, because he is the guy that is untouchable by anybody's freaking law. He's like an untouchable entity that goes wherever he wants and does whatever he wants to do. He's not held to no type of standard. No one is telling him to stop doing this, that, and the third at all. And we have these greedy, demonic entities that's over our existence moving forward. And we don't know what will transpire, other than the fact that we know nothing good is coming, because he doesn't run his government off of being righteous or being correct. He runs it off of being what he wants to be. So that's just something to consider. You guys should really look up. I wanted to give you guys, before I move forward, some website or YouTube channels to look up to research what I'm talking about. Don't take my word for it. You can look this stuff up. It's my goal to try to catch us up on what we should be thinking on and why. If you go to something called PragerU, spelled Prager, and then just the letter U right behind that, you will go to a site that has a lot of other news about the Brexit, which was Britain leaving the European Union. And this guy by the name of Nigel Farage, Farage, he's a European politician in Britain. He's been dealing with the parliament since 1999. He has been broadcasting his feelings about George Soros for a very long time, about his meddlings and all the affairs going throughout the world. And if you go to PragerU, you can hear him talk about what he has exposed about George Soros, but he ultimately led the charge to lead BREDX, which BREDX was unifying the European to this European Union. So June 23rd, 2016 is when Nigel Farage, Farage, had led the charge to leave the European Union because he noticed what was going on and he did not want to get Britain caught up in the affairs dealing with someone with the likes of George Soros. And he had also mentioned that the European Union has like different rules that affects your fishing rights and stuff in other countries. Like their hand reaches throughout the world and they might not even be residing in those countries, but they have like laws that they can impose on these people that are a part of this European Union. And that's why Britain left, because he recognized the danger of Britain losing their sovereignty. So that's why he left. And this is what he had mentioned about George Soros. If you go to that site, he can explain it probably better than me. But the point of the matter is, George Soros was called out as being the king of chaos, out here running around, spending money to cause wars and protests and messing with, the laws and just doing whatever he can do, whatever way he could do it with his hand, with his money. This is what he's been doing since I believe 60s or 70s. This man has been relentlessly busy and keeping up with everything going on in the world. And of course, it's not just George Soros. Let me just make that plain. I'm focusing mainly on George Soros because I don't think that the Black community realizes how evil he's been to us. All this money he's been spending towards so-called riots, or not riots, but protests and marching and laws and this and that and the third, it has not materialized any one iota thing that has benefited anyone at any time for anything. And yet all these millions of dollars are just for the purposes of keeping us upset, frustrated, fighting, yelling and screaming, and not having nothing transpire behind the effort. He is pretty much instigating. He's instigating our pain for his pleasure of chaos. So that's why I brought him up, because he's been busy for a long time doing this type of thing. And yes, he has a lot of other elitists like Rothschilds and Bill Gates and all the others that are affiliated with him, who are in agreement to do what he is doing. On the other side of the collapse and what will happen with America when everything hits the fan is they already have their exodus plan. They have exodus plans. They've been having these plans in play for a long time. They've been knowing that these secrets were in the books to have happened. And so now we are here looking at what is about to happen. I feel the anxiousness. I feel anxious. I feel anxious behind the fact that my own people are not speaking truth to what we're dealing with right now. And I'm not saying cry and yell and scream, but say the things in which we need to say collectively as a people that is in sync with what is going on right now, for God's sake. That's what is so frustrating to me. But they don't want to pull the trigger, so to speak, because they want to wait until something major happens. Then they can bring up this, well, I have a solution. That solution is you might want to consider going back to Africa. And that will be, like I say, the escalation of conversation and our only way of dealing with the collapses of what is going to occur. Is it going to happen now? I do not know, but could it happen now? It looks like it could, easy. Is this a time that Trump is going to make good with the government shutdown for something to happen benefiting to us as a prelude to what he's going to do after he gives us a prelude? possibly, but that's a possibility. He could, in fact, get the government to agree to some terms, but it don't look like it from their end. But maybe he will. I don't know. We'll see. And if he does, and maybe the last year or so is bought some time, like kicking the can down the street as they continually do, maybe that will be our time to get ourselves together if God will grant us that time. But unfortunately, we have no awares of knowing if that time is here until it happens, to where we know we're in a messed up situation. But I do know that right now it's not starting off good. It's not at all. The signs are not good. So what I wanted to let it be known, the notion of people from America that are Black to resettle back in Africa came into reality as early as 2015. So this talk that I have not known about has been going on since 2015. And here we are, 2019 now. And as I said before, Dr. Mumbe, who has had ties with George Soros, please look it up. She said it in her testimony. She's talked about him here and there. She mentions him and mentions her affiliations with the government, the European Union, and other international agencies. She used to work there for years. And all of a sudden, we're supposed to trust her as the one to tell us what to do while we are struggling here in America. I find that very, 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 very crazy, but that's what is going on. And as I said, Dr. Mumbe has been around, I believe, since 2017. So she's taken up the mantle to spread this talk of Africa even more. And what was the hiccup was Phil being called out on his lies. And the hiccup was her trying to cape for this African guy, I forgot his name, who had a Chinese girlfriend. And I think that people had commented on him dating the oppressor, which was Chinese, coming to Africa, taking over the damn country. And Dr. Mumbe got in her feelings and started telling Black Americans off, and made the mention that her channel is a dictatorship. But that just shows you her mentality is not African American. I'm not African American, but it's not Black American. It's her mentality and ours are not the same. Her mentality is the old African who supposedly robbed the slaves and sold them. That's where she is. That's where her mentality is. And for anyone to believe that we could take the words of someone on YouTube speaking to our reality of life as being the answer is just phenomenal. So she is speaking as if she's a prophetess. She's been sent by God. She's not married, no kids. She has all this time to commit to getting us back to Africa. And as I said before, that's hogwash. They can't even get the people in Africa together, let alone unify us to do anything there. And if you go there and whatever happens there, you're there. So it really doesn't make sense, but that's what they're trying to sell us. This is what's been in play since 2015. And then we have the introduction of Dr. Mumbe in 2017. We've been having Dr. Phil online, I believe, since 2012. And I believe that he but talked to Dr. Mumbe for the first time when she started YouTube the same year, or maybe the next year, one or the other. But the point is, it's just not by chance that happened. It's orchestrated. They're giving us increments of misinformation in hopes that we believe that this is the natural order of what we're going to be as people, which we are not those people, but yet they're selling us the idea that we are those people, we're going back home. So, like I said again, is behind George Soros and his notion that he can make anybody do anything for anything. And he has a lot of people in his back pocket to sell us that lie. Oh yeah, I looked up Trump. Some of his information I looked up. I found it fascinating. First off, Trump means, as we know, when you're playing cards and you have to choose, you can choose a card that sometimes trumps another card or above the others. When you playing a card of the same suit and you in the chosen uh, above the others, the rank, the trump, which can win a trick where a card or a different suit has been led. So that's your way of trumping over. That's what he does. He's also in the casinos business, which is gambling, which is playing games and trickery, stunts. This is what he's known for. Trump also is likened to like a trumpet. Like when you think of a trumpet or a trump, you think of a horn, which makes a lot of noise. And when you look at Trump, he's very, very loud and obnoxious and over the top. He represents everything that goes with that name. And also it means to be better than Trump or have more importance over power than another person or thing. And in Great Britain, I looked it up, Trump is defined as fine, reliable person. Now, I want to let you guys know that Donald Trump's father was from German. He was in some type of village called Bohemen Amberg. And after the World War II, Donald Trump's father, Fred, had concealed his identity since 1980 till 1987 about his true origins of where he was from, which was Germany. He had led a lie from all that time since World War II, which is back in the 40s up until the 87, and leading many people to believe that he was actually from Sweden. So we see a family that's not having a problem with lying and concealing information. When this information was brought out, I looked up in 1987, it was brought out by Donald Trump, where he had mentioned at that time when he had wrote a book, I think it was the art of the deal of the art or art of the deal or something like that. He made mention in that book that he was a proud German heritage. And in 1999, he actually served as a Grand Marshal. And we do know that a Grand Marshal is ceremonial, is also with a tinge of military and political office, is of a very high rank. And he had brought this out when he was performing also in this parade that edified German heritage. When all this time before, then he was not, and his father was not known for being German. So Trump has always had layers of concealment whenever we talk about him. Right now, nobody knows how much money he's worth. To this day, he's never ever divulged how much. We don't know how much property he has all over the world. We don't know a lot of things about Trump other than what he says and tells us. So he's been very good at concealing his movements. And he's also mentioned in his candidacy for presidency that he would never show you what he's about to do. He's just going to do what he's about to do. Just like you saw him turn or shut down the government on Christmas Day. He did not give no real good warning about it. He just did it. So that just shows you this is his character. This is his father's spirit. This is what he's been accustomed to doing. And we do know, in my opinion, that Trump is dreaming of the day that there is martial law brought to America. I believe that if this collapse could go to the martial law status, I don't think that Trump would trip at all. I don't think he would trip at all. So we just need to, my battery is 15%, so I'm going to have to hustle it up now. But we just got to recognize that we have the tug of war going on between the powers that be, Trump versus George Soros and his allies that are liberal through the open, open society and all his affiliations throughout the world. And what makes it worse is the fact that Russia is pimping Trump because they've had a lot of business transactions since the 80s. And so this tug of war, it may be the beginning of the end of what we've been knowing our life to be like. But I think that Black people should not be talking about stupid relationships and these petty, stupid beefs and edifying people on YouTube as being our new faces of other people to be glorifying, I guess. Come on. We have enough of that already. What the answer is, and I've been saying forever, is that we should be edifying God. We should do whatever we need to do to come back to a place where we can trust God and collectively come together for one common goal. Where was I on this? I know there's something else I got to hurry up and read. Okay. Number 11, Ezekiel 21, number 11. And he hath given it to be furbished, that it may be handled. This sword is sharpened, and it is furbished, to give it into the hand of the slayer. Cry and howl, Son of man, for it shall be upon my people, it shall be upon all the princes of the Israel. Terrors by reason of the sword shall be upon my people. Smite therefore upon thy thigh, because it is a trial. And what if the sword contemned even the rod, it shall be no more, said the Lord God. Thou therefore, son of man, prophesy, and smite thy hands together, and let the sword be doubled the third time. The sword of the slain, it is the sword of the great men that are slain, which entered into their privy chambers. I have set the point of the sword against all their gates, that their heart may faint, and their ruins be multiplied. It is made bright, it is wrapped up for the slaughter. Go thee one way or the other. Like I said, it's either Trump's view or this liberal view. It says either on the right hand or the left, whithersoever thy face is set. I will also smite my hands together, and I will cause my fury to rest. I, the Lord, have said it. The word of the Lord came unto me again, saying, also, thou son of man, appoint thee 2 ways, that the sword of the king of Babylon may come. Both twain shall come forth out of one land. And as I said, I believe that is New York. These 2 titans of greedy swamp monster, power mongering people, Trump, Putin, George Soros, and in this one land, this city, New York, they both have residencies in. It says, appoint a way that the sword may come to Rabbath of the Ammonites, and to Judah and Jerusalem the defenced. For the king of Babylon stood at the parting of the way, and at the head of the 2 ways, to use deviation. He made his arrows bright. He consulted with images. He looked in the liver. I don't know what that part means. I'm trying to figure the part about liver. But when I think of being bright and I think of being glittery, I think of Trump, because he's the one with the properties, the Trump towers, the glittering of the floors and the Escalade and all this type of thing. He has a lot of gold trimmings and just, out of the ordinary stuff that he showcases in his property. So it makes me think on him even more there. And as I said, number 22 is at his right hand, which is, I'm talking about Trump, was the deviation for Jerusalem, to appoint captains to open the mouth in the slaughter, to lift up the voice with shouting, to appoint battering rams against the gates, to cast a mount, and to build a fort. Who's trying to build something? Trump. A fort? Yes. A wall? Yes. That is Trump. And he has his battering rams, the appointed rams. We have these right wing nutty bars, racist nutty bars, who are supportive of Trump and his shenanigans, who don't mind to have the black people, the low income people suffer, starve, or die, or get sick. They don't care. The mistake, as I said, that these battering rams, as I say, which is symbolic to me as someone who is out of control, which is the bantering of the right wing racist element to Trump. And they've been battering about this wall, screaming out that they're going to support him to get this wall, come what may. That's what they're doing. They're trumping him up. They're supporting him. They're saying, go do it. Go ahead, take over, do whatever. These nutty bars are encouraging this Trump to do so. And number 23 says, and it shall be unto them as a false deviation in their sight to them that have sworn oaths. But he will call to remembrance the iniquity that they may be taken. So when we have and we see sworn oaths, there's a lot of people that have sworn an oath. They have sworn an oath online to be chaos agents. Real talk. And people don't want me talking about that because their identities have been concealed for a very long time. Unfortunately, all the scamming has been going on to the point where no one's safe to not be exposed. And now this time has come where everybody's can't hide. No one's been able to hide. The Bible has mentioned that the righteous and the wicked are going to have a separation, because prior to all this revelation and showcasing all the scam artistry that's been going on, these people were running amok, doing whatever they wanted to do, and they weren't checked by nobody. They lived to see another day to have another scam and continue on and on and on and on. Now we see that the tides have turned to where you can't lie and hide. Those days are over. Everything is sticking to the truth. Look at R. Kelly. He can't hide no more. Look at all these other people being accused of this and that and the third. They're not able to, like they have been able to do before the Me movement. They've been able to hide behind the judicial system. They've been able to hide behind their money. They've been able to hide behind their family, their status, and all these things. They've been able to do that before. Now, they ain't able to hide behind the fact that they've been wicked and a pedophile. They are partaking in scamming. They partaking in taking money from widows and baby mamas and the poor people and the ghetto women who are aspiring to like lift up, prop up Umar Johnson, Pharaoh, young Pharaoh, Hassan Campbell, all these others. They have propped up these male black YouTubers as being stars, as the new age stars outside of athletic stars and movie stars and rappers and the norm. Now we see a new slew of emergence of stars on YouTube. Why is that? As I said before, now people are aspiring to be another Hassan Campbell. Now people are running around trying to be the next Sinetta. People are running around trying to be the next Lovely T or Phil the Vice Show. So they're caught up in hustling to get to the status of making real relevant money. And so they're allowing their truth and reality to be put to the back burner while they're aspiring to rub elbows with the people that are ahead of the curve of what we're doing. So I'm going to come back after my phone charges more. I don't want to lose my live. So I'll be back to continue forward with Ezekiel 21. I'll probably go back a couple of passages to make sure that you guys are caught up. But if you could get the Bible and read Ezekiel 21, we'll go back to that later today. And I just want you guys to just please prep. Please freeze food. Go to the food locker, get your family to get motivated, and not sit back and assume that Trump is going to come to his senses and do right by us. He has never cared about no one else but him and his family and his affiliates. And like I said, George Soros is making it harder because he wants to be able to do what he wants. And so it's a battle between the elites to me. And it's the battle between misinformation being brought to us about what we need to do and why. We're being handled. We're having puppeteers all over the place on YouTube. And it's unfortunate that I've been targeted as exposing the truth from the standpoint of end times in the Bible. And yes, it's calling out people that look and sound good because they have been chosen. But as I said before, and I'm continue to say, when you are dealing with end times and the government closing, we don't have the luxury to play it nice and smooth or wait our turn or raise our hand to ask a question. You kind of like got to get in there and say what you need to say to make your plea to everyone about what you're seeing in hopes to shake them up out of their stupor. And maybe this will be the beginning of that. So if you could do me a favor, please like and share this video. I will come back. I hope my other channel will be working. But as I said before, I was highlighted on different chats as of late. And I believe it's behind the fact that I have been exposing the truth from the standpoint of how we need to be talking and looking at things. And the powers that be don't want little old me to showcase their ill thinking. The fact that they're greedy, they're making all their money as they're stalling us from being active. And that is not of God. That is not the benefit of us. And that's not smart for us to be like at this time. And since we don't have the leaders that we should have to speak on our behalf, unfortunately, little old me has to speak. And I'm hoping that others that are like little old me will start. Thank you. Bless up. Like and share this video.